So if you've been anywhere on Twitter the past couple of days, you've probably seen these beauties. The behind-the-scenes images of Thomas and Friends. These were like finding the Holy Grail. Other channels have talked about these before. Trainboy has gone over these and the gatekeeping that can and has arisen over these images and props and such. And Tug has gone over the map made by our Lord David Bitton. Today, I wanted to talk about some of the interesting pieces of concept art that has been released recently, and go over what they could have meant for the show and why some of these ideas weren't acted upon. Now, all of these photos were graciously given to us by 5, maybe 6 Twitter accounts over the span of around 2 to 3 days, though there's probably more still coming over the next couple of days, even after this video releases. Getting into the concept art, we'll start with this one depicting Tidmouth as a terminus station. It seems that the crew at some point wanted Tidmouth to be a terminus, like it was in the books, or perhaps the terminus to replace Knapford. I believe this concept art was during the production of Series 2, since that's the series that introduced Tidmouth along with pretty much the rest of Sodor, besides the east side. So maybe they were planning on retconning Tidmouth as the big station, or replacing it, or something like that. It does, however, seem that the track continues past the station, probably for going to the sheds, but it could also be for going up to Duck's Line, or judging off the map that Mitten made, just whatever rail line of the many that's spewed out from Tidmouth Junction. Another piece of artwork shows Tidmouth Halt, which is also being a terminus station that is held up by the map that Mitten made. It's on its own little sect of the line that just ends by the coast. It actually shows what eventually became the workers' house in the series that then Old Slow Coach replaced was actually going to be a hotel. And I'm wondering if they changed it because Cloistery coach being a hotel just doesn't really work, just based off her size and the accommodations that a hotel kind of needs, unless it's a single room specialty suite. I don't know. Continuing on our Tidmouth trend, we have Tidmouth Bay, which seems to be the station that Toby goes to in Special Attraction, considering Toby's right there and there's like a shed for him, and it is depicting a festival. So I'm going to assume this was supposed to be the festival at that station, and I guess this is how they got the name Tidmouth Bay from, for that Sam Wilkinson map everyone hates. I don't know. It does seem really weird that it's Tidmouth Bay, but I mean, considering pretty much all the Tidmouth stations are on the coast, I guess this works, but it's very different from what we saw on the show. And there's also this old manor station, which seems to be concept art for Oliver's Find, and it matches up with the episode pretty well, except that the old manor isn't really, I guess, a major part. It's more a town with a manor in it, though we do see Sir Tom Hack go up to that manor, so I guess it's just part of that set. Then we have the sawmill, which could be the sawmill we see Trevor work at, or the sawmill that's coming from the line from the top of Gordon's Hill, which based off the map is like just a weird flat part of Gordon's Hill, though it could be both because we don't really know. I would guess it's either the one that Trevor worked at, because the concept art does match, but it's just mirrored, but it also could very likely just be the one from Henry's Forest that we see very briefly, because that sort of matches up a bit better. The hay cutting is also over here too, which may imply that they're both near each other, which is confirmed on the Mitten map. So it is very interesting that the hay cutting is on Edward's branch line and not Thomas's or really anywhere else. Moving on, we have the haunted Henry Viaduct. This was never actually shown on screen and only mentioned, and looking at the concept art, I can kind of see why. This is a large ravine with a towering and seemingly curving viaduct, which is very similar to the narrow gauge one if you look at it. Next, we have the Brendam Harbor, which shows a much larger station than what was seen in Series 2. It has 3 bay platforms with basically 3 lines for each, and just a massive yard with a turntable and all that. And judging by this image, as well as the Tidmouth image, I'm wondering if they were going to retrofit Knapford Station to become Brendam Station, and then replace Tidmouth as the big station, as per the books. But maybe the budget wouldn't allow them, so they had downsized Tidmouth as well as Brendam, considering, it's using Knapford Station pieces, like it even says on there, use Knapford Station canopy, and considering that both Brendam and Tidmouth were going to first appear in the second season, I think the crew wanted to fix their earlier mistake of having Knapford be the big station instead of Tidmouth, but either budget or just someone wanting to keep continuity with Series 1 was like, no, let's keep Knapford the big station and Tidmouth as a through station, which I'm kind of wondering, and I should look at this now that we have a lot of these images, is the Tidmouth and Brendam set the same for the station, just with some slight canopy changes? Then we have the mine from Put Upon Percy, which is a lot larger than what we saw in the show. It's pretty much the same area, but we're just cornered off into this right area and really only see just this little bit of it. And we never saw the massive structure over to the left. Though it does seem that massive structure then later appeared in Percy and the Haunted Mine, but it's a bit different and it has a similar design, but probably isn't the exact same because I doubt they actually built it since we can't see it in the episode. Then we have Crosby, which I don't think ever appeared in the show, but as some people on Twitter have pointed out, it seems to confirm that the turntable Henry went to in Edward, Gordon, and Henry is at Crosby because there's a turntable there and it clearly marks this way to Henry's tunnel, so that's probably the one that he went to instead of going all the way to like Tidmouth or Knapford or something. And then finally here's Crovan's Gate, which seems to have the works on the left side of the station, but other than that, Crovan's Gate is pretty much the same that we see it in the show. I do find it interesting that they moved the works over to the right side of the station, and that, at least originally, it was going to be pretty much exclusively standard gauge, because looking at some of the production stills, that 2 narrow gauge track that Rheneas and the other narrow gauge engines are on in the episode Galleon Old Engine, that was just road originally. There were no tracks there. So they built it as just a road, but then put tracks on there, I guess, just for that episode and kept it. I don't know. I kind of like the old concept art design more, just because it kind of makes a bit more sense instead of there being a weird bridge that the narrow gauge engines have to go across to get to the works. I don't know. But there are just so many pieces of concept art and production stills that just show how the insane work and care that went into the show, and I and many others are so glad that it's out for the public to enjoy. There's even stuff in here from Magic Railroad. Granted, it's just storyboards for now, but an interesting piece of behind the scenes content to look at. I'll be putting the link to the Google Drive where pretty much most of this stuff is, as well as the links to all the other Twitter accounts that are posting this content, if they're still up, because apparently they were disappearing now, so that's not good, but thankfully we have everything mostly into the Google Drive. Like and comment if you want me to cover some of the production stills that were released as well, and subscribe for more Thomas content. I'm Trainmaster 36 Productions, and I'll see you next time.